dude, every journey has a humble beginning. I wish people had more courage to just like start and be humble and be okay with like sucking when you first start something.
I know what that's like, dude. I know what it's like to say, hey, I am going on a diet. I am fixing it. This is the last day. I'm done with it. And then like 2 days later be like, I can't take it anymore. One of the most important perspective switches for me when I was in that position was to think of it as a mental test and not such a physical test. All these people that have done all these things that you admire, they were willing to be humble enough in the beginning to say, hey, look, I'm going to do this and I'm going to suck at it in the beginning, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep showing up. What is up, guys? It's Andy Frisella, and this is the show for the realists. Say goodbye to the lies, the fakeness, and delusions of modern society. And welcome to reality. Guys, today we have a special treat for you, a special Saturday treat. I'm sitting here with my good friend, Mr. James Lawrence. What's happening, brother?
Hey, man, it's kind of surreal. I hear that sound all the time, and then just be sitting here watching you like pound that out, man. It was magical. Thank you.
Bro, come on,
Thank
man.
you for that moment. I loved it. That was
Come
great.
on, you're a big reason why we're here. You know, if you guys don't know James has been on the show before. He's been instrumental in changing hundreds of thousands, millions of lives with the example that he sets. He's otherwise known as the Iron Cowboy. He's done some incredible feats in life. He's a tremendous human being. Some of the things you might know him for is he did 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 consecutive days. He also ran 101 full-length Ironman races in 101 consecutive days. I mean, he's raised an amazing family. He's an amazing dude. I mean, what else? What else have you done, man? Waiting for you to cure some stuff, like
on water.
Yeah,
I mean.
Oh yeah, we got another guy over here. We happen to have my brother Sal. You guys asked for Sal.
Fuck, man, it's every day.
Yeah, every day.
It's probably the biggest DM I get.
They said replace DJ with Sal.
I didn't know this was going to be Christmas, and I get to do Andy, Sal, and DJ all in one go. It's like, this is amazing.
Listen, you could cut that audio clip and turn into some weird stuff, James.
in the day and age of A&I, yeah, there we go.
They said they need somebody to make fun of DJ, so here we go.
Hey.
I'm in.
Let's see how it works.
Yeah,
Guy still got his Christmas lights up. Too easy of a target.
Oh man.
So what's been going on, man? What do you got going on?
Yeah, man, life's been interesting since the 100 and just pushed in a million directions. Been doing speaking. Really happy and thrilled to announce that I'm back to racing, back to competitive, back to feeling myself.
Yeah,
doing some world championships later this year. In fact, in a couple weeks, I'm headed to South Africa.
Where
at? Cape Town.
That's
race
awesome,
called
dude.
Cape Epic, and it's the largest mountain bike stage race in the world. And team race, 8 days long.
Haven't you done this one before?
I did it in 2000. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I was kind of new to mountain biking.
Yeah.
And so I'm super pumped to go back. Same partner, guy that we coached in South Africa named Mario, and we're going to attack it this year. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
You fly your bike over, I'm assuming?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't want to tackle an all-mountain, wicked terrain on a rental. That's something you want to go on your steed, something you're really familiar with, something you've done a lot of training on.
How do you train for that?
Well, it's super tough in the winter of Utah, because we got to do a lot of it inside. But we train a lot with power. And so, you just try to get your numbers way up and get as powerful as you can.
Did you see that video I sent you last
Like
night?
power, are you talking about power generation?
Yeah, watts that you're producing. So
just like on the core bike.
Or a Peloton or anything else?
Peloton, yeah. So we have power meters on our bikes, and it tells us exactly how much power we're generating to the drivetrain. But yeah, you sent me that video last night.
Yeah. So true cyclists go power per kilo. That's the dick measuring contest. Right?
Yeah, pounds per kilogram.
And so it's just like cars, power to weight.
Pretty much.
For sure.
Yeah. It's
you're right, because the video he sent me was Lance Armstrong, and it was back in his heyday. And the interviewer said, "How many? What it's called an FTP, functional threshold power, and what was your 30-minute power during this time frame?" And this number will make sense to some people, not to most, but it was 500 watts for 30 minutes. And at what he weighed at the time, that is insane. The average general guy walking around, you couldn't do it for 10 seconds.
No, I mean, if I get up,
this is 5 minutes straight.
30 minutes straight.
Wait, 30 minutes straight. 500
watts output.
and
That's a professional cycler.
That's Lance Armstrong.
Okay.
In his heyday.
It's insane. Like that number, like when you go, so I was just messing around in a Peloton, just trying to hit it just to see what trying to hold 500 would be. To James' point, if you can hold it for 40, 50, 60 seconds, like you got a pretty good, like you're getting in it, especially if you're in the saddle, like sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
That little guy, to be able to put that down for 30 minutes, it's unbelievable, actually. Like it's a number that
it's unworldly. Yeah.
And so you think about these guys, like these little guys that are running the Tour de France, like they're machines. They're not.
Well, and what people don't realize is the bigger you are, the more watts you can push.
Yeah.
So like you could probably get on a bike and push some heavy numbers for a short period of time.
Right.
But those guys are 140 pounds, 135 pounds pushing that. So that's your pounds per kilogram formula that you're talking about. Once you get above like 4 point something, like you're in another class.
And he was running 7, right?
Oh, it's
I know
insane.
that's stupid for
It's
some
not-
of the
it's-
audience.
He was
but
not even on the chart of where it
I think
is.
it shows you though the feats that, you know, these elite athletes that have to train, you know, they're not professional sports and, you know, baseball, football, you know, hockey, the things we watch on TV. But when you really start finding down, like looking at the humans, the ability and the level that these guys can get to and that they train for and the amount of power that they can generate based off of training, it's insanity. It really is something special to watch.
Yeah, they're on a whole nother level.
What when you like, I mean, James, you know as much about mental toughness as anybody on the planet, in my opinion.
Yep.
You know, like you've done some of the most incredible human feats that have been done by a human being ever. You know, when we talk about when an average person thinks about doing one of these events, like they're going to go run a marathon or they're going to go from zero to doing something that they're going to prove to themselves, what do you think the first thing is that these people have to get in their mind to get right, to go on that journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake people do is they try to go from zero to an Ironman or zero to a marathon. And yeah, most people can do it in a survival state. But the biggest thing they got to do is they got to start small and build those foundational blocks and get that experience. And you know, it's interesting because people see my headline and they're like, oh man, I can't do what that guy did. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You see the 50, you see the 100 or whatever it is. We ran across Greece, we biked across the country, whatever. They don't realize my journey started with a 4-mile fun run that I struggled through. And then my wife called me pathetic and signed me up for a marathon and said, figure it out. And I was like, dude, running's stupid. Like, I don't understand why people
Thanks,
do
Sonny.
this. What's that, Sonny?
Thanks, Sonny.
Yeah, thanks, Sonny. Well, and now every time it's something, she's like, man, why are we still doing this stuff? And I'm like, hey, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You started this whole thing. And then we found triathlon and we started getting it together. But it was those foundational blocks. And I did really fast, intense racing, short distance before I ever started to lengthen it out. And if you look at every single world champion today, both in the half Ironman and full Ironman distance, they started with foundational, short distance, power, explosive, and speed, and then started to lengthen out. And so really for anybody that's getting going and wants to tackle something big, like let's start working on the fundamentals and the foundations, just like any sport or any business. Like you got to really bring it back to the basics to start.
Yeah. And I think that's a commonality across life in general. I mean, here at HQ or First Form, you know, one of the biggest things is, you know, setting people up for success in their fitness journey. You know, I want to lose 100 pounds. It's a great goal, but you know, they have to learn the foundations, 21 days, 28 days of building these small habits that they can stack on top of each other in order to get there. And, you know, and I always tell people like, hey, you didn't put on 100 pounds in 30 days. You're not going to lose 100 pounds in 30 days. And so you have to put one foot in front of the other and start stacking these wins and stacking these behavior changes, these habits to create the change that you want to see. And then you got to cross time. You got to give yourself some time in that saddle, if you will, to be able to get to where you want to go.
Well, and the concept that people really need to like figure out or imprint in themselves is invisible progress.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind as you're showing up, as you're doing the work. And then all of a sudden one day you get that tipping point to where like all that progress like loads on. And then you go, oh, okay, that's why I was showing up and doing
And
work.
it's parallel life or business or anything.
100%.
You know, there's a lot of times you go through times in your business where you're working real hard, you don't think that things are happening, and then all of a sudden things start going real fast. And it's not that they weren't happening, you just couldn't see them happening.
Well, it's just like your story. Nobody saw that foundational work and then boom, oh, First Form came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
No, it did not. Like, and people like me, oh, you did 100 Ironmans. Well, that started with a pathetic 4-mile fun run, right?
Right.
It's just that work that invisible progress that nobody's seeing.
What is the time frame from run 1 to 101 Ironmans?
So 2004 to 2021.
21. So
17 years.
Wild.
Yeah, so 17 years of foundational sacrifice to get to that moment. And one of the biggest concepts I talk about is you can't go from 0 to 100. You can't go from 0 to where this company's at now. Like there's so many steps in between.
But I think that's the part that a lot of people back down from, right? Because when you look at when they compare themselves in business, if you have somebody who's 17 years in business in front of you, and you're comparing your journey, your startup to their 17 years,
which is what everybody does.
It is, and it's deflating as hell. You're like, well, look, they got this or they got that, or how come we can't do that? It's like because I got 17 years in front of you, and we think about that in the fitness journey life all the time. Is the comparison is a thief of joy. And so when you're constantly comparing your journey to somebody else's, or your business to somebody else's, or whatever it may be, you have to realize that it takes time. It's investment. It's time in the saddle. It's time under tension, and realizing you have to learn and adapt and make the changes to get to where that person is. Yeah. And that's the journey, right? That's what most people don't like because the work's uncomfortable and it's not fun all the time.
You're comparing yourself to their end result. Compare yourself to their inputs.
No shit.
To their actions.
Yeah, compare your work to your work.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you do the end result, that's going to get you every time.
How many, I'm curious to what both Sal and James, what you guys think on this, but you said the comparison is a thief of joy. In your opinion, because I have my own opinion, when do you think it's right to compare?
I mean, I think in general, it's okay to be consciously aware. But when you're looking at, your journey, everybody has a different starting place, right? So to look at the measurement of success, I think you have to understand where is baseline, where is zero, and where have you made the progress to. And if you started at, let's say, 0, and somebody else started at 50, and our goal is to get to 100, but you made it to 70, or, I made it to 75, and you made it to 100. I made 75 basis point move. You made 50. So who's better? The guy that got to 100 or the guy that got to 75? And so when I think about it, it's like, we all compare ourselves specifically now in social. It's like, oh, everybody else has this, and this is what happens. Everybody robs each other of their own joy. It's like, how far have you come? How much weight have you lost? How many races have you done? Yeah, you might not have done 101 Ironmans, but you did one. You know what I mean? Most people,
and a year ago I was 300 pounds.
Yeah, or
right?
most people did 0.
I stop people immediately when they come up to me like, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do what you did, but I did a 70.3, and I'm like, dude, don't say that. Just
That's
say,
awesome.
I did a 70.3,
Yeah.
and pound your chest and shake my hand, and I'm going to tell you that was amazing. And it's interesting that you're
Bro,
right.
I'm with that too. That is.
Yeah, I just want to see people win.
Yeah.
And we're in this day of social media where everyone's the coach and everybody's the expert and everybody's the mentor, and it's literally paralyzing society from starting because of fear of this judgment.
Yeah, we don't want to look stupid
else.
starting like we're a beginner.
Right, and
yeah.
it takes maturity and humility to not compare yourself, be okay where you're at. In fact, I had this really cool experience where I got to fly in an F-16 jet.
No shit.
That's awesome.
It was incredible, and we hit.
That's badass,
dude. I will send you the video. It is so friggin' cool. We hit 7 Gs on takeoff.
Oof.
We went from 0 to 20,000 feet in 15 seconds, and on takeoff, the video's hilarious because I'm like, you can't see my face, but I'm like, eyeballs are massive. I'm freaking out. I'm milliseconds away from blacking out. And the pilot's like having a Sunday dinner conversation with the tower.
James, you with me?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm just like freaking out. The suit it's plugged into the jet. It's compressing. It's sending all the blood to my brain. And we finally level out, and we're upside down, and we flip over. And I just thought to myself, man, I am so glad it's not this dude's first day on the job. He's the freaking expert, and he's surrounded himself with this amazing team. And then later I thought about it, and I'm like, dude, every journey has a humble beginning.
Yeah.
And he didn't, he spent thousands of hours in the simulator and all this, and then working with the tower and the team and the guys on the ground and all that. And I'm like, I wish people had more courage to just start and be humble and be okay with sucking when you first start something, because you're going to be terrible. In fact, in my stage presentation, I put up this hilarious picture of me in the pool. It's my first triathlon. I'm gripping to the side of the edge of the pool. I'm gasping for air. I'm wearing a nose plug. I'm about to get out of the water to jump on a borrowed bike. And I'm like, I'm so grateful I had the courage to start, because nobody looks at that person in that moment and says, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't the guy yet, but I was okay.
No, they were laughing.
They were laughing at me. Like, look at the dude with the nose plug on, right? But I was so glad that I had that a little bit of humility in me to be made fun of in that moment, because it completely changed my life. That was the starting point of a trajectory that I would have never predicted.
Bro, isn't that the starting point of anything great though?
Right, but social media is paralyzing people from taking that step.
No, it definitely is.
Fear of judgment, and it's so sad to watch this new generation be frozen in their footsteps, because they're missing out on the whole point of life, which is the experiences and the journey and the growth that you have through that. And so for me, like I've got 5 kids, and I'm so grateful that we gave them a front row seat to like embarrassment, humiliation, and growth.
Yeah.
Because I have 5 unbelievable children now that are like fearless, mentally tough, and I stack them up. And I'm not being a braggadocious dad, but like my kids are better than yours.
Yeah,
You
they're
know? I look and I like do a straight up comparison against their peers, and I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about my kids anymore because
DJ,
we've
he's
given them
you.
a gift.
I know
Yeah,
he
no,
wasn't
he ain't
talking
talking
to
about
me.
me.
He wasn't talking to me. I get over there. You know what I'm saying? Get a little of that Midwest up that ass. No, but I mean, that's a great way to look. And this is why, for me, this is, you know, I'm so fortunate that I was able to play baseball. And, you know, and the reason being is because, like, when you look at the sport of baseball, you have to fail 7 out of 10 times to be the greats. Like the guys who hit 300, they go to the Hall of Fame. And so you become so comfortable with failure. Like I'm so used to walking up into a stadium. It's got 10, 15, 20,000 people. And, you know, if you're at home, they're cheering for you. If you're on the way, they're yelling at you and they're screaming at you. And you fail. And if, you know, if there wasn't a progression of the fail, like when you're at Little League, you strike out, you get comfortable with it. And you get to high school, you strike out, you get to college. You're like, all right, this is kind of normal. You get, you know, and then you start working your way through it. You're like, well, this is how life is.
Yeah, if you went up there on day 1, dude, and struck out and everybody's cheering, you'd be like, what the fuck is this?
Mortified.
I
But that's what happens in social, right?
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
5,000 of their friends are looking at them. They failed. Well, they're mortified. And me, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, shit,
Yeah,
I don't know any different.
Yeah.
I think social media or this generation has normalized or tries to normalize perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I will shout it from the rooftops that like the greatest gift is failure.
Yeah.
You don't win through success. You don't learn through, I mean, you win through success. You don't learn through success.
We know what you meant.
You learn through those missteps, those stumbling blocks, those like, okay, I'm going to intentionally take this opportunity to learn, grow, and become better. I mean, how many missteps did you guys take building this empire?
Fucking all of them.
All of them, yeah. Every single
Every
one.
single one. Every single spot that says don't step on that, we fucking stepped on it.
Yeah.
And probably sometimes 3 times.
Dang it, that's what this
Yeah.
generation needs to learn and understand is like it's okay to fail and just build up that thick skin and just not care what anybody thinks about those missteps because that's the gift.
Yeah, and I think the word that you use there is grow. You know, like what does it take to grow? And failure is part of that process. You know, because you learn if you're failing correctly, right? And you continue to put yourself in a position. You know, to your point, it's not about perfection; it's about progress. Like, what do we learn from the mistake, and how do we get better? How do we next time? How do we get a little bit better? You're not going to go, you know, from progress to perfection either. It's as you continue to get a little better, then the bar of perfection gets a little higher. You know, you start perfecting the skill, and so. You know, one of the things I try to instill in my children is the confidence to be able to go. Like when they're, you know, whether it's at gymnastics or it's baseball or it's whatever, it's like, hey, go. Like, go.
Lay it on the line, man.
Go. Just go. Like, you're going to go out there and learn. Like, you're going to be all right.
Dude, I'll be on the phone with him and he'll be at baseball. Obviously, we're talking about work. And fucking all I hear was, you better run that out. You better run. Run.
I'm a believer. Like, you're going to work hard. Like, my
Yeah.
kids, they will not be lazy. You know, my kids are going to be, they're touch the line type kids. And I promise you that's going to happen. And, you know, I mean,
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
and I treat everybody's kids the same.
I just jump in. I'm
Well, it's
like,
like-
yeah, run.
It's like your guys' dad. Kill.
Yeah, that's
no,
right.
for real though. Like, you know, I tell we have a great group of parents that Enzo plays baseball with, and then we make them play soccer. And they do. I've learned that it's what you expose your kids to is extremely important. You know,
An
and-
ecosystem.
Yeah, just the entire because who are they interacting with and what type of qualities they have, and that's why it's very important. Like the schools, kids' schools in today's environment. Like, what are you leaning your kid into? Because these formative years, these are where you teach them those principles about touching a line and running hard and finishing what you started and making sure you're a good teammate. Like these things are all learned now, and so I draw the line hard, man, and I don't give. It's like I am here. I'm like, this is what it is. I make them have fun, right?
Well, I wish
But-
more.
I mean,
wish
isn't that
more
what the
parents
world
did
needs?
that.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wish more
Yeah.
parents did that. Like played a more active role in their kids' life because those kids are products of their environment and man, they're sponges. And as parents, you may not think your kids are watching you, and like they are watching every single move. And I just like I have a problem with the parents that are like, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That's
Never going to work.
That is never going to work.
Yeah.
Like the greatest gift I could give to my kids was both Sonny and I like being open when we hit rock bottom and lost everything, being open when they knocked on our door and took away our home, being open when I had to stay up all night long and change the wood on the fireplace because we couldn't turn the heat on. Like they got to experience that all with us, and then they got to see us show up every single day, not make excuses, and overcome it. And that front row seat for my kids has done like the biggest thing in molding who they are today. And I've got some damn resilient children. Like it's
bro, you got
remarkable.
an amazing family.
Yeah, thank
They've
you.
all been here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Done good, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah, they're proud. I tell you right now, the proudest moment of my life, like despite everything and I've done and the finish lines I've crossed and the mountains I've climbed, like that moment when your daughter walks up to you on wedding day and just says, "Thank you, Daddy." You know, just like waterfalls. And I can't wait for you to have those experiences with your kids. I'm sure your dogs will get married too one day.
No shit. Yeah. I think we should stay on this for a second though, because one of the things that I don't have the perspective on that we talk a lot about is the next generation of kids. And I'm sitting in front of 3 fathers who are all concerned about what is going on in the world and what's happening in society. What's it make you guys feel like when you see what's happening in society? And then you think about Enzo when he's 30, and you think about, you know, what's going to be in the world and how things are going to look. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's super scary until, you know, he's got some unknowns coming up because he's still in that phase where they're super young, and it's like, okay, I hope I'm doing enough, and I hope they're sinking in and they're getting it. And I'm kind of that phase of my life now. My kids are 15 to 21, where they're leaving the house, they're going into the real world. And my wife and I just kind of had that moment where we were sitting on the couch. We were like, we did a good job, man.
Yeah.
And we got we sacrificed a ton. We were very active in the process. And now we're to the point where we're comparing our kids to their peers and other family members that have kids. Because early in the process, we were like, man, Sonny comes from 6 sisters, and we're like, man, they got very different approaches to this. And I kept saying to Sonny, I was like, Sonny's my wife, I kept saying, it's going to be interesting to see how all these kids, like there's like 40 grandkids, like how they all turn out. And man, it is very apparent today.
So what you're saying is, don't compare in the beginning, but once you laid it all out there, we can measure up.
That's the time to compare. You did a bang up good job.
The giver of joy.
That's right.
Don't do it early, but do it late, especially when you're on the good side of it.
That's right.
That's when it's right to compare.
That's right. All right.
Full circle.
I got it.
Full circle.
Oh, dude,
I'm scared of shit. I'll be honest. Like I don't. For me, it's weird, man. Because I didn't have the best examples of like, you know, parenthood or fatherhood or like what exactly should I be instilling, right? And thank God I do have a few good examples now, right? But like, I'm still scared of shit because you just
Are you saying
don't
I'm
know.
your dad?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. No, but it's like, I mean, because you don't really know. Like, you're just praying that you're making the best decision in that moment, and you're praying that it fucking works out, you know. And it's like, you know, I've always looked at things, you know, in the aspect of like, okay, I don't know what to do, I know what not to do, and let's just do that. Like, let's just not do this, and we'll be all right, you know. And I've always had that approach, but it's like, man, like when I think, like, fuck, what's I ain't gonna do in 30 years, bro. It's like, man, I just pray I'm giving her everything I got right now, and
that's why we got to win the revolution,
don't
bro.
Fucking dye her hair blue in, you know, 20 years and some shit up. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all I can fucking hope for, man. You know, I don't know.
But that's the hard part too. Is like when you're a parent, like you're new too.
Yeah.
You're new to
no
doing it.
instruction manual.
You don't know it, and a lot of things that we learned, it's like every generation is like, okay, I don't want to do what my parents did with me, and sometimes it's for the good, and sometimes it's for the bad.
sure.
And so it's like, where's that line of what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do? Because you were just like, I know what I don't want,
right?
But now how do I figure out what I do want? And then we're all just like, it's this big experiment.
Well, I think it's that. I think
what's
it's
not.
like that story. You've ever heard that story about the alcoholic parent the man that had 2 sons? Okay, and one son never drank a drop of alcohol, and when they asked him why he never drank a drop of alcohol, he said, because I watched my dad. The other son became a drunk, and they said, why did you become a drunk? He said, because I watched my dad. So at some point, we have a choice to take our circumstances and make the better result out of them. Whether you had a good parent and say, hey, my parents were good, I want to model that. Or, hey, you know, I didn't have shit, but I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen here.
Right. I think that's a scary thing too, man. It's like you can do everything you possibly want. You can put your kids in the best school. You can, surround them with all the right things, and there is still a chance that they will be a fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a big chance. You
Yeah.
know? And so it's just that risk. And you're like, I mean, dude, I pray I pray every single day, man, that my little ones just.
I don't think there is a chance, bro. I think you do. I think you, like James, you've got the oldest kids here. I mean, yeah, there's a chance, but like, really? Like, you put your hands on, you're working every day, you're setting the example, you're setting the standard. The chances are much higher that it's going to turn out well.
For sure.
We're 5 for 5, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
far, right?
Yeah, so far.
Still a couple of years left in there.
Yeah.
Dude, I just think it's an important thing to think about because, right now there's a lot of people who are, I don't know. We're going to either see the continue downfall of culture and society, or we're going to see it come back real hard. And it seems like parents are understanding that there is like a failed generation in between.
Yeah, I think we're going to see
somebody
that
fucked
shift.
up.
Yeah.
We're in that phase right now where we're like, this needs to course correct immediately, or we're going to be in a really bad spot.
Yeah, I mean,
do you guys see that with like other parents and stuff?
Of course, that's why we moved. You know what I mean? So like in my brain, like, I don't want to say I'm not worried at all because that's pretentious and just not true. But I, like anything else in life, and this is how I think.
You're doing all you can.
Not only am I doing all I can, it's not that I haven't failed it much. It's that I understand when I put my best foot forward, usually win or at least succeed. And in that case, like there's no negotiation. I don't negotiate with my kids, meaning I'm doing the best and everything that I physically possibly can to push that cart in the right direction. And under those pretense, I say, okay, I'm going to raise the best children that I can. How do I do that? Well, I understand it starts with the example that we set and the rules that we tolerate and the example that we're putting forth every day and the community in which we raise them in. So all those decisions, I try to make sure that it's not even a compromise. Even the baseball team, like it's not a compromise. It's not an activity for them. It's a purposeful decision. I'm like, no, he's playing there. And I think under at least my experience, when you control the variables that you can control and you put your best foot forward, the odds are you can do well. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen every time, but the odds are you can do well. And I understand to DJ's point, like there still can be these outliers, that happen. And I'm trying to minimize those to every degree. But I think from a society standpoint, I think there's extremely positive to it. Competition's going to be lower.
Yeah, that's right.
Our opportunity for success can be much higher,
Yeah.
Well, and to
teach him how to work
DJ's
hard.
point where he was mentioning he's terrified, and I'm to that point now where my kids are going into the real world, and I'm doing a direct comparison to what's out there, and I'm like, oh, my kids are fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
I'm looking at the competition, and my kids are going to handle
Prepare
it.
Your
them
kids
for
aren't
battle.
bringing their parents to the job interview.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Did you guys hear that stat?
I saw that.
One out of
Crazy.
1 out of 5 Gen Z first jobbers is taking their parents to their job interview.
That's so crazy.
That's insane, dude.
So crazy.
Maybe it's smart though, right? Like maybe we should start doing that because we get to see the example set. We're like, all right, we got mom and dad, and we got the kid here.
Mom's got a pack of Marlboros in her sleeve.
All right, they ain't gonna make it. You know what I mean?
right.
You stay in the lobby. All right, you know what I mean? So like maybe there's an advantage there.
This is what was shocking to me is my daughter was a supervisor at a local pool for the lifeguards, and she came home one day just frustrated because these kids weren't showing up for their shifts. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. They lost their jobs. And she's like, no, we have a no call, no show 3 times before you get fired.
Damn.
And I was just like, how did that become the norm?
The standard
that you're allowed to know. Like I remember back in the day, you think about not showing up and your boss is like, no, sorry, I know your intention and you're fired.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like you're no call, no show 3 times before you lose your job. I was just like, I do not understand what's happening.
Well, that comes from people not wanting to do their jobs themselves and not wanting to go through the hassle of trying to find another employee because they're all trash. That's they've dealt with.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why they are having that lenience because there's nobody stepping up to take that spot, and then they fail as a business because there's nobody to do it.
Bro,
which is why it's so remarkable about you guys. I mean, you're top down,
dude.
Like
people think there's like an employee tree. You have to like. There's a whole lot that goes into that, man. It's not like you just go out and pick these people. You got to work with them.
Yeah. Just
like we got to assume they don't know anything, right? We got to teach them. We got to show them. We got to work with them. We got to set an example. These are things that other business owners just don't do. They want to plug and play, and unfortunately, plug and play is not working right now because the talent pool isn't really.
Yeah, that's what I talked to this group about yesterday or the day before. There are no bad employees, only bad leaders, right? When you think of it that way, the responsibility's on the leadership. And yeah, it might be difficult to train those employees to get them to the standard that you want to, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And, when you start taking on that challenge in a similar manner and saying, okay, well, if I know that the difference between winning and losing is our ability to be able to cultivate these youth into becoming career-driven professionals, that becomes the game. It's not selling supplements. It becomes how do we cultivate culture?
How to develop people.
Yeah, through development of, making professionals. Because if everybody else is struggling to do that and we win at that, that means that we'll have a better culture and a better team. And it doesn't mean that we're absolved from it forever. And, we ebb and flow too, right? Good times, bad times. But when you start looking and just kind of refocusing the game and say, well, wait a minute, maybe the game's down here. And the easy thing to do is to point the finger and say, well, it's the workforce. Because the hard thing to do is go look in the mirror and say, well,
it's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's us. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we've had to have that conversation, sit everybody down and say, hey guys, you ever think maybe it's us? Like we're failing? What do you think about that? You know?
Because the term that I heard that like really hit me was like, we're in a talent crisis.
Right.
And to me, that means we're in a leadership crisis.
Dude,
That's right.
1,000%.
Because that means the leadership is failing because like they don't know what they don't know and they're just products of their environment.
That's
and so
right.
if we've got a talent crisis, I think, well, no, we've got a leadership crisis.
That's right.
And that will fix the problem. Again, it's from the top down, which is what we see here.
Well, people want to belong. People want to win. People want to know that their life matters. People want to know all these things, right? You have to put them in a position to do them. That's your job.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, even we struggle with it because it's not like you can't just set the place and hope that it scales itself, right? And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Well, I have, one store that does well, so I should open the second store and it's just going to automatically do well. No. You know what I mean? Like you have to go back into the process and you have to constantly be in that, if the process is 1 through 10, you have to constantly be in the 1, 2, 3 phase, constantly, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, teaching and showing and setting the example for what success looks like. Because, that piece of the journey is for us is the win, mastering the 1, 2, 3.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to be one of these 20-year-olds right now.
Yeah.
I would love to be one of these 20-year-olds, man, because you would, if you are a driven, hungry, motivated,
There's no competition.
disciplined individual at 20 years old right now, you are going to kill everybody else.
That's why I'm so excited about my kids who are
Yeah.
coming into the real world because I'm like,
Yeah.
pick your spot.
Yeah,
Go
what do you wanna do?
dominate because you're so resilient and you've learned and had a front row seat. Like, go be the top at any game you want to go be at the top at, and you'll do it because of the principles that they have. And frankly, the competition is just like,
Well, she want to move to
So
St.
flat.
Louis. I was just in Utah, so I can see why maybe she doesn't want to. But,
yeah, well, St. Louis is super pretty.
we're always hiring.
Yeah.
It's not Park City. I can tell you that.
Yeah, man.
Meaning don't park here.
Yeah.
You live in Park City. This is a do not park
do
city.
not park city.
Do not park here. You will not have your car city.
Hey, it is what it is. You got to have a little street smarts if you live in St. Louis.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Competitive advantage on the streets.
That's
James.
right. Yeah.
So
Dude.
I got a confession. Got to have it. When you came and asked us for money and you said you were going to do 101 Ironman triathlons, and we got to be real honest here because Ironman banned you from using Ironman, which is
We can use it.
which is totally honky. Like that was like boo on Ironman. But
Did he say honky?
It is a honky.
Honky.
I was
That's
freaking
racist.
Oh, I got excited.
You did? That's your favorite word, isn't it?
I don't get it. The
DJ's eyes lit up, dude.
I thought to myself, there's no way this dude's going to do it. There's no way this guy's going to do it. And I remember sitting in my office looking at it. And it's not that I didn't support you. I thought to myself, I'm like, man, this dude, like, that's literally impossible. Having watched the documentary, having known you, having done all the things, and we're putting up a lot of money to do it, right? And I'm sitting here looking at him. I'm like, so we came up with a deal. Hey, I'll pay you half up front and half when you finish.
It was, I'll tell you this, I laughed, chuckled a little bit on the inside when I went to get the second half of the check and you were like, I didn't think we were going to have to write that check.
Yeah,
And I was like, got him.
Yeah. No, but it's when I say this, it's as honorable as a confession I could ever make because,
No, thank you.
we went out and I only ran the marathon with you for the 100. And I remember, do you remember seeing me? You're probably blacked out at that point in time.
No, I remember you being out there.
Yeah, I remember seeing you and it was like such an overwhelming sense of pride to watch. And you were broken. You were damn near delirious. I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, this guy is, you want to talk about putting it together. Like he pounded your chest and you were looking at me and you got a big hug, you were moving, and when you cross that finish line, it's one of the coolest moments that I've had in my life. And I didn't do anything. I was just experiencing it, watching it. And it cost us few $100,000. You know what I mean? Like it was not like oh, here we are. It's like you write the check and the guy's winning and you got to pay it. But it was like one of those things. It was such a cool moment. But I have to say, like, you know, sitting in that, and I don't want you to be confused. It was doubt. I was more looking at you like, man, this dude's nuts, right?
I'll make a confession too. I knew you were going to do it.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew we were going to do. I wouldn't have committed $100,000 or whatever it was, a couple $100,000, whatever the fuck. I don't remember what it was. I thought, I'm like, bro, if this guy can do 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. There's fucking nothing this guy can't do. I still believe that. That's true.
Well, and for me, it was a kind of a surreal moment because I had a couple big goals in that project. One, make it past 50, reset your own history, prove everybody wrong. Make it to 75 because I was like, dude, I want to prove to everybody that, like, do 75 hard, but do it with an Ironman.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't get to see Sal and the crew until day 100. And so when you showed up on day 100, and I'm like, this is the day. I made it because Sal's right here, and Sal's not showing up on any other day but day 100.
That was our whole thing. He kept texting me, come. I said, no, I'll come on 100.
100. And I was like, damn, Sal's here and I'm here. And that's why I was like pounding my chest. I gave you a big hug, and I'm like, holy shit, we made it.
It was cool, man, because he kept texting me, you going to come? No, I will be there. 100. It was like, you know, my brain, it's like 100. 100 or die. That's where I'm at, you know? And there he was, man, running on that trail behind your house overlooking. And by the way, the trail is beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you go out on it still?
Every day.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I figured you'd never want to see it again.
You know, that comment has been made a lot, but for me, I choose to look at the really great moments and the memories that I had there, and I even look at the suffering as that was part of the journey that molded the memories that I have and the struggle that existed there, and turned me into who I am. And so I have a lot of pride on that trail. Yeah, because it was blood, sweat, and tears, and it brought people from around the world together. And in fact, when I got into trouble early, like day 5, starting to get stress fractures, like can't walk, waiting for the step my leg's gonna break. And it was just incredibly almost embarrassing or humiliating for me to have to like slow down and walk. Cause part of my thing was like, I'm going to do 100 and I'm going to show a level of athleticism that's never been seen. It was a little bit arrogant. Yeah. And then when
you got to have it. I mean,
you have to walk into something like that with a little bit of swagger, because if you don't, you're done anyways. And so when I had to slow down and was starting to get criticism for walking, and my legs were really literally going to break. And then we started to hear people say, I'm so grateful that you're hurt and going slow, because I wouldn't have been able to join you otherwise. And we had a lot of life-changing moments out there where people got to participate with us because we were throttled back. And it became like my pain and my suffering became this greatest gift for people to come and have this experience with us. And we raised over $1 million for sex trafficking freedom. And that wouldn't have happened had it just been like this athletic showcase of whatever, but it was like the humility and slowing down, and then the community coming in and just getting to be part of something so big together. And obviously it doesn't happen without you guys and your generosity. So
now you shot a documentary on this, a full documentary.
Yes.
And tell us about that.
I'm super pumped about it. It actually drops on March 21st. We're doing a private showing at the Sundance Ski Resort in Utah, and then it's going to hit all the streaming platforms. And I gave the producer, we turned over thousands of hours of footage. It was an incredible editing job. And I said, look, you've got 4 jobs. You got to leave people with a sense of family, because we're family first. This has got to be about community and everybody coming together for one cause. People have to get the sense of hope, dealing with the things that they're dealing with. And you can't make me look like an idiot. And they nailed the first 3.
Yeah. Hey, batting 750.
Exactly, man. Hey, those are pro stats, baby, right there.
But I think what you said is extremely important, and not to take away from the documentary momentum, but that perspective that you have about being grateful for the opportunity is extremely important, you know, because a lot of times, you know, there's a choice. To Andrew's point on the child who goes one way versus the other, it's how we see things and how we look back on them and how we see the perspective of life. Like, where there's good, there's bad, and where there's bad, there's good. But you find what you're looking for. And that piece, you know, to somebody who's seeing you go through the struggle, yeah, it might not be you're going to do 100, Ironmans, but that struggle that you're going through is the same struggle of somebody starting day 1 of, you know, losing 10 pounds, right? The struggle, the mental struggle, the physical struggle, like, where do I start? What do I do? And that perspective that you have to be able to, extract from that incredible feat that you went on is just simply showing up and competing every day. Like, hey, if I show up one more day, what happens? If I stand committed to myself for one more day, what am I capable of? And that's a piece about success in life, whether it's physical, whether it's finance, whether it's personal. It's like, stacking those wins and showing up to compete day after day after day after day is that's how you make life. That's how you make the big movements make.
Well, Andy asked the question about comparison. And I hate it when people compare, their journey to mine, or I couldn't do that, or I just did this. And I'm huge on people just recognizing that, like, everybody's heart is different, and you just have to be okay with meeting yourself where you're at and just getting that momentum going, and just being okay with where you're at, and stop comparing yourself against other people, because truly we have no idea. And you talk about perspective. I love this topic, but we have no idea what somebody's background was and where they came from and how they got to where they got, and what were the experiences they had that shaped that perspective, and what gave them their belief system. And so, man, I just try to have so much compassion for people that are either struggling or have lost their way, and just trying to get them back on the path of, like, just meet yourself where you're at and get back on track and going, and start creating, the power list, those small wins every single day. That is such a big concept.
We got to start, when we're in that position. I saw a video last night that really, like, touched me. It was a video a guy on Instagram sent me of a woman in his, he has a Facebook group where he trains people. And I guess she, she was overweight, but she made like a 4-minute video where she was talking about, like, how powerless she felt, how hopeless she felt, and that she was posting the video because she actually had committed to doing 75 hard and wanted people to know that she had committed, and was basically talking about, how she knows she's going to really struggle through the events that she has to go to, and she can't enjoy herself. And just hearing that, like, I actually commented to the guy. I said, bro, it's good to see these videos, because, one, it creates perspective for the people who have been living a disciplined lifestyle for so long that they have forgotten what it's like to feel that level of powerlessness and hopelessness. Yeah. And I think it's always good to really remember what it's like to be in that position, because, dude, like, when you're in that position, you don't even have control over what you put in your mouth or what you don't put in your mouth. You know what I mean? Physical objects like food or alcohol or anything have complete control over you.
Addiction is scary, man.
Dude, and it's something that we really, everybody out there, because we have a very, I would say, go-getter audience, right? Everybody here is ambitious. Everybody here wants to win. Everybody here wants to create. But I think it's very important for everybody to remember that, like, once you get it together, it's your job to also pull other people along with you and help them understand, that they do have hope and they do have the capacity for change. And it's really not that hard. You just feel like it's that hard because you haven't been able to overcome it in so long. Yeah. And so, perspective for us, guys who have done things in their life, or people who have done things, I think is super important, man, because a lot of people, what's common sense to maybe you at this point in your life, or me at this point in my life, or you, may not be common sense for the average person that has never been able to say no to French fries. As silly as that sounds, I was that person. I know what that's like, dude. I know what it's like to say, hey, I am going on a diet. I'm fixing this shit. This is the last day. I'm done with it. And then, like, 2 days later, be like, I can't take it anymore. Like, I know what that's like. And I think one of the most important perspective switches for me when I was in that position was to think of it as a mental test and not such a physical test. Get your brain wrapped around, hey, if other people can do this, I can do this. You know what I mean?
I think that's where comparison is good.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting to. So when we talk about comparison and we talk about not comparing yourself, there are times where it is really good. And, for example, like, if you are a high level competitor, it is necessary for you to compare yourself against other high level competitors to keep sharp and to progress. But when you're just getting started, the way that you use comparison to your advantage is by remembering that like all these people that have done all these things that you admire, created these companies, done these amazing, ridiculous, human history making, difficult physical challenges like you have, these things, people did these. Like people, like human beings just like you. You cut them open, they bleed red, man. Yep. You know, they're not different than you. And the only thing that makes them different is that they were willing, to your point, to be humble enough in the beginning to say, hey, look, I'm going to do this and I'm going to suck at it in the beginning, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep showing up. And I think if we as a culture would recognize that, like, we need to really do a good job. You know, we talk a lot about America and society on this podcast, but it is our obligation that once we get ourselves out of that difficult spot for us to pull other people and show them that they can as well. And I think that's something that we need to like really, really, really remember. You know what I mean? It's not just about us. It's about them too.
Yeah. And when you're at that point, and I think just a quick change in perspective is not comparing, but shifting it to modeling. And you find someone who models it, just like the 4-minute mile, impossible to do
until they did it.
Until he does it, and then 2 weeks later another guy does it, and now high school kids do it every single year. And so it's impossible until somebody does it. And so I think we need to stop comparing, and we need to like leadership, like you talked about, Sal, and then modeling, finding someone that's done it, and go, okay, I'm at the beginning of my journey. I'm not going to compare myself to them. I'm going to model myself after them, and then start to create those small wins. Yeah. And then that creates that momentum. And that's, to me, that's just a different feeling of comparison versus modeling. And now that's going to create that momentum.
Well, and I think that piece, you know, like when you look at, you know, finding great role models, you know, in society, like finding people you look up to and admire, and have a humility to be able to reach out to them and say, hey man, can I get some help? Like I'm in a spot.
Yeah.
Helping me out. And then the second side of that is, everybody else, some people have different gifts. You know, for you to build a $10 million business, I don't know if it scares you or doesn't scare you. You might think to yourself, like, how the hell would you start that? And for me to go out and run an Ironman, it scares the hell out of me. But for me to build a $10 million business in my brain, I think, well, that's pretty easy. Yeah. You know what I mean? For you to go run an Ironman, I'm going to do it right now. You know, so like there are skill sets associated too. And so, you know, being able to understand and be self-aware of, hey, what am I capable of? What's going to happen? And what can I be realistic with? And then attack. You know, being able to have that humility to show up and compete for yourself every day.
Yeah, and in terms of modeling, like, you know, we've all heard 1,000 times, like, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with. Yeah. And, you know, you get those individuals, you know, that are like, well, I don't really know 5 people. Like, I'm stuck in this kind of community or environment. And I'm like, that is one of the gifts of social media. Like, my 5 guys that are in my circle, they don't even know that I'm in their circle because I'm like modeling them on social media. Like, you're in my circle and Ed's in my circle. And like these guys.
Bro, you're in my circle too. I'm telling you that right now.
I appreciate it. But like, there's guys out there that like, okay, I need to find my 5 guys. Dude, find the 5 guys you want to be like. It's on social media, and then just start modeling them. And until they really become part of your circle and your
community. That's the real fake it till you make it. That's what fake it till you make it actually fucking means.
100%.
What it means is fake behaving like them until you become them. You know, it doesn't mean rent a Lambo and fucking take a picture in front of it.
No. It's exactly that. And, you know, fake it till you make it has kind of got this like bad stigma nowadays. But fake it till you make it means like start acting like that person.
Exactly.
It starts to become a habit.
No, not acting like the result. Acting like the work.
Yes, do the habits, the characteristics, the traits, the execution part of it. Like, you can't tell me if you start to do the activities that Andy's doing, you're modeling, like we just talked about, that behavior, and now all of a sudden, I'm starting to become that person.
More like that.
But it's not faking it, it's actually putting in the work and doing those action steps, but you've just created the pathway for me. I got to just model that.
I don't think people understand. I think when people think about themselves, they think about themselves like they look at their life right now and they say, this is my life, right? And I want a different life. But they don't stop to understand that what you're looking at now is the result of decisions that were made by a different you that existed in the past. And if you want a different outcome, the current you has to make decisions now, today, even though the result isn't what you want, especially because the result isn't what you want that you have currently. You need to make decisions today that produce a different outcome later. And so if you really think about it, dude, like if you really dig into it, you're not even the same person that's created the life that you have in front of you that you're dissatisfied with. You're not even that person anymore. You're already somebody else right now. Even though the result of your life says differently, you have made a decision to make the change now, which means you actually are somebody else right now. You're just dealing with the mess this other guy created.
Yeah.
And if we could think about it like that, there's less shame, there's less guilt, there's less embarrassment, there's less, worry about looking stupid, because we're like, yeah, well, that guy was an idiot. I'm not an idiot anymore. I learned my lesson. Yeah. I'm going to make some better decisions. And I think when I think about things, when I'm dissatisfied, that's one of the things, that's like one of the little mental hacks that I use to, I guess, make myself feel better about it, but maybe that'll help you guys too. I think the result of what we have now, we have to acknowledge that was that guy. Yeah. That was not me right now.
You want to know the greatest
that's
compliment I've ever
though,
received?
right?
Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad, right? Even the good shit you got right now, that ain't from what you did right now.
That's right. Correct.
Keeps it in check on the other end.
Correct.
Too.
Greatest compliment I ever receive is you've changed. You've changed.
That's the point.
And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not the same guy I was when I was 20 or 30 or 40. Like I'm creeping up on 50, and I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
But they didn't mean it as a compliment. But I'm like, dude, I'm on a rocket ship, and if you're not on board, like, that's fine. We'll part ways. Like our time together is over. But like, it's so important, and I'm gonna tell people the secret to life right now. It's one, forgive yourself for your past. Like, learn from those lessons, but like, stop carrying that bag of rocks.
That's hard.
Bring the lessons with you, but like, learn from those, and then stop catastrophizing and worrying about the future. Have your dream and reverse engineer it to the path, but then, like, the hardest thing, and it's totally cliche, but like, it's right now. It's this moment. Because if you take care of today, tomorrow takes care of itself. You know the vision, you know the dream, you know where you're going to get to. But what's holding people back is those two things: catastrophizing about the future and living in the past, not forgiving yourself for the turd that you were.
What would you say to someone who...
Can you spell catastrophizing, please?
Yeah. catastrophizing.
Yes. I-N-G. Ends in a G, starts with a C.
That's right.
In my brain, I'm like, that's a long-ass word, Jay.
So I do get a lot of messages from people that talk about the forgiveness of self, and they very much so struggle with that. So talk about that for a second. What do you think on that?
Man, it takes a ton of work. Just like that, mindfulness is obviously a cliche word too. It's so funny. I saw a clip on Instagram the other day. They were like, mindfulness, dude, the phones have ruined mindfulness. Like, back in the day, you just sitting on a bus, mindfulness, taking a shit, mindfulness, like doing all these things is not mindfulness. But now we've got to like set time aside to do mindfulness. But really, that's what it takes down to. You've got to have that practice of like disconnecting, sitting down, really dissecting what's happening, have open, real conversations with your spouse, with your parents, with your kids, with family. Have a trusted circle that you can do a deep dive into stuff, and then like reset those negative experiences with positive ones. And that's the beauty of the brain, is you can totally reset your brain, which changes your perspective through different experiences. And so if you're stuck in the past all the time, it's because you're not progressing, you're not showing up, you're not trying to learn, adapt, evolve, and change. And so like, you want to get over your past, start creating a new future for yourself, because that's the biggest thing we're seeing with people. If you're talking with friends and whatnot, and all you guys talk about is the past and old memories, they're not your friends.
Yeah.
And they're holding you back from progression, and you're not getting to the root to get yourself over whatever trauma it is, because we all have trauma, and it's all unique to ourselves. But you have to take that effort, just like physical effort in transformations, in business, whatever. It takes effort, and mindset and getting over your past takes effort. It's not about shoving it down. It's about facing it, overcoming it, and creating a new future, changing the perspective in which you see and approach your life. That's the only way to do it. And it's work, and sometimes it sucks, and you're gonna have those moments of tears and fear and imposter syndrome and all these things. But you have to unload that bag of rocks in order to.
You have to actually become someone else.
100%. You have to shed those people. And again, I said it moments ago. Like, the greatest compliment I get is, you've changed. I'm like, thank you. I'm doing the work.
Would you say that also goes to because, okay, so holding on to your past, you're saying that's one part of it. But what about the people who refuse to even admit that they are responsible for that past, right? Like, is that also a part of that as well?
Oh, 100%. It's a lack of maturity, lack of accountability.
Like, just being honest with yourself.
Those people are kind of off the table, like, until you're willing to accept the reality of how the world works, which is this. It is inputs and it is outputs.
Yep.
It is math. It is one input equals one output. If I put this in, I'm going to get this out. If I put good in, I'm going to get good out. If I put bad in, I'm going to get bad out. This is the reality of life. And for someone to make any progress at all, the first step is to always take accountability. And if they can't do that, dude, they're going to be stuck there forever.
Yeah.
They could never change. You can't drag them through it.
Well, I was to your point, like
Yeah.
I've just really learned, because we do a lot of coaching, like you can't make somebody change, and they have to show up with humility, with accountability, and then a willingness to work and shed.
That's
old
why they got
version of who they
now
are.
they're the clay. Now they can be molded.
Yes,
Yeah.
now you're like, okay, now let's start to rebuild and have experiences
Yeah.
to change what it is. And so, yeah, to your point, like you can't work with someone who's not willing and in a space where they're wanting to change. In fact, I come across people and they're at rock bottom, and the first thing I say to them is congratulations. Like, this is the start of the next part, because most people don't really change until they've had like a significant event in their lives to where they're either stripped of everything was taken away, a traumatic accident, a major illness or something. And then they're like, okay, something needs to change. But it takes, I hate to see it, but it takes that moment for someone to have that realization to like start to reclay themselves into something new, something different.
Yeah, I had one of my best friends, growing up, and then through college, he became a crack addict of all things, right? Like, here we are, like regular people that we would think, college athletes, and somehow this dude gets wrapped up in crack, and you're thinking, no way, like no way. And it was a long process, 3-4 years. And, I would call anybody and ask for help. And I would drag this guy out of the inner city. I mean, I was anywhere I could find him. I'd go get him, drag him, fight him, tie him down, the whole deal. And I saw a therapist one time, and she's like, hey, listen, like, here's the truth, and you're going to have to face this. He's either going to, overdose or get to a point where he wants to change, like he has to change, or he's going to die.
Yep.
But you going in and getting him, you're not getting him out of that. He's going to have to do it. And I'm so hard-headed. I'm like, nah, that ain't going to happen, But after another 18 months of battling it, he went through the process. He hit bottom. He went through the, woke up in a hospital, went through the whole deal, and there he was. And he had to make that decision. He made the decision change. And I think he's 12 or 13 years sober now, and has gone through it. But
built a great business for himself.
Yeah, stud of a human.
Yeah,
Loved
awesome
it.
dude.
But it's crazy, like, to that point. Like, to James, to your point, you have to get, not, people think rock bottom, like, oh, they got to be doing bad. No. You got to be on the brink of death.
No, so
Not what you think rock bottom is.
Yeah.
So to your point, like one of my best friends in high school, like graduated high school, we both won the state championship in wrestling. We both went undefeated in our weight. We're standing at the same point at the same time. Massive future ahead of us. What are we gonna do?
Wrestle.
What's that?
You're going to wrestle.
We're gonna wrestle.
We're
We're
both
gonna fight.
undefeated. Yeah.
And
Take your shirt off.
Fast
There we go.
forward 20 years, and he got addicted to cocaine and went down this road. And his brother finally called me and he said, I don't know who to turn to. Will you please take him in? And we moved him to Utah. We took him in our home. We got him working out. We had him reading books, and he was massive progress. And 6 months go by, and we send him back home. Gets off the plane, straight to his dealer, and hasn't come out of it yet.
Yeah.
And so we're like, you just can't. They have to get to the point where they are wanting to make that change. And I'm literally waiting for that phone call to where he's either dead or in prison, or he's turned his life around. And I hope it's the latter, because there was just nothing we could do, because he has to be the one to want and make that change.
Yeah, and we actually, consequently, we get this a lot in our business, in the diet business. You can want better for somebody else, but until they want to make that change and they kind of hit, that moment, they won't make a change. And, people say all the time, I want my spouse to do it, or I want my mom to do it, or I need my kids to do it. And having, hundreds of thousands of reps at this point, like, you have to want it. That's what I've learned. And for me, and for a lot of people, it's a picture, right? Or they have a moment where they're in a suit and a tie, they're with their significant other, and they see it, and they see their wedding photo, and they look at their photo now, and they look back and they're thinking, holy hell, that's me. And then they have this internal moment where they make the change. But that drastic kind of situation that you have to go through mentally to see is what it takes to require to take the action to go make that change. And, at least in the diet business. And I think a lot in life too, right? Like you have to kind of hit these walls and get to these points of where I don't want it anymore.
Well, people ask me all the time, like, how do you, with what you've accomplished, what motivates you to keep showing up, keep striving for new goals, keep trying to raise the ceiling? And I'm like, I just feel I have a responsibility to set an example for those that aren't in that place yet, because we may not know it or recognize it, but as leaders, like, people are watching us, and like strangers we don't even know. And I feel a responsibility. I have to keep showing up in my life and execute at a super high level, because those people are watching, and someday it's going to click for them. And without my effort directly with them, you saved a person.
Right.
And they gain that confidence, that momentum, and they go, okay, that's what I want. I'm at rock bottom, and that's what I want. And so I, just like you guys, you want to be the North Star for people, and that excellence in your life doesn't go unnoticed. And someday those individuals are going to do it. They're going to make the change, and guess what? They're going to turn to you. You're going to be their mentor, their coach, and you're going to be able to help them through that. But you can't be that person if you're wishy-washy, you're not consistent, you're not showing up, you're not trying to be that like standard of excellence that people are striving for. So that's what motivates me every single day. Like, who's watching? Because on day 80 of the Conquer 100, I was broken, like spiritually, mentally, physically. And when I first started this journey in 2012, the world record for the most Ironmans in a year was 20. And I'd done 80 consecutive. I had 20 more to go. And trust me, the last thing I wanted to do was 20 more 140.6 mile days. And I look back at it and I'm like, because I made the decision to keep going. And I just knew, okay, today I just have to show up and do what I can. And the lives that we changed just over those last 20 days is staggering, because we hadn't hit our fundraising goal yet. And from that moment to the end, it was a $750,000 bump. And so I always ask myself, what would have happened if I quit on day 80? And it would have still been a world record, and it still would have been a new standard in endurance. But what opportunity did I lose to impact somebody because I chose not to quit on that day? I've changed my legacy for sure, right? And that's what we need to strive, and that's where our mindset needs to go. Like, what's my legacy? And we'll never reach it, right? It's this constant moving benchmark.
Right.
You know, you hear people talking about, like, I'm going to chase down the ultimate version of who I am. That's not possible, because
it's possible to chase it. It's not possible to achieve it.
Correct. Yes, because as we evolve as people, the
potential expands.
The version of that person changes. So it's like, to me, it's the most fun thing on the planet is to try to chase down the baddest version of me, because it's an endless pursuit. And I'm like, who am I going to be in 20 years trying to chase this son of a bitch down? You know what I mean? And that just fires me up.
Well, you're going to have bad knees, I can tell you that.
No, I'm not. I'll tell you right now, I'll be the first person to do 140.6 miles at
knee replacements.
No, I'll be bionic at that point.
Yeah, that's right.
Done.
And how old?
At 100, I'm going to do an Ironman.
At 100 years old.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I have zero doubts about that.
I'll be there on day, I'll be there for the run.
Get perfect.
The last mile.
I won't be there. I'm shooting for 80. All right. I'm here to have a fucking good time. I ain't here for a long time. All right. Dude, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because first of all, I agree with you on the pursuit of one's own potential being the literal definition of a successful life. Because by pursuing your potential, even understanding that you'll never reach it, so much good happens from that that is residual, because you're continuing to evolve over and over and over and over again. And when people see that, they start to understand themselves differently. And I think that's what separates, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, you said what gets you up when you're sore, when you're tired, when you've already proven everything. You've done all the things, bro. Like, I'm sure you'll come up with something crazy again and do it again. I know you will. And probably a lot more things. That's the truth. I think you're just getting started. But if the whole world understood what you just said, how different would the world look? Meaning, if everybody got up every day and understood that their life was literally crafting other people's lives, that is the switch in perspective that will keep you in check. If you're having trouble, getting it going or understanding what the point is of this, or like the woman we spoke of earlier who's very powerless, try switching the perspective a little bit. Try making it not about you. It's not about you. It's about everybody around you. And it's not just because we're leaders in this room. Everybody's a leader. Yeah. That's what we're failing to realize as a culture and a society. The average guy who's got a blue collar job, who's going to work, bro, you're still a leader, man. People are watching you. They're observing you. And the example you set, look at Cam Hanes. Cam Hanes is a regular guy who's changed he's very not regular, but in general terms, he's a normal guy. And he's decided to live his life at a very high potential, which in turn inspires millions of people to do the same. And just by a simple guy who, works construction and builds things and loves to bow hunt, calls himself a bow hunter, that's his identity. This guy, because of the standard that he holds, he inspires millions of people. And if he can do that, then why can't you do that?
100%.
Why can't you, the listener, do that? Why can't you live at a higher standard and show the people around you, even if the people are just your spouse or your kids or your neighbor or in your neighborhood? These are the things that actually matter. It's not who's in political office. It's not what's going on in the news. It's what example are we setting out here in society? Because we all complain about society, but we fail to acknowledge that we are society. Yeah. And the example that we set does matter. And if everybody took what you said and really listened to it and really thought about it, you ask a man who's done, dude, like we said, 50 Ironmans in 50 consecutive days in 50 states, 101 straight Ironmans. Dude, you've ran across Greece. You've biked across the country. You've done all this really, bro, one of those things is legendary, much less all of them. And you ask him, what's he still doing this for? Why is he still going? And he says, because I want you to see it, because I want you to be better. If we all had that attitude, what would the world look like? And dude, it's one of my favorite things about you, bro. Real talk. You totally understand what it means to be a man. That is being a man. People say, what's the difference between a man and a boy? Being a man is understanding that how you live your life is going to dictate how other people turn out. Regardless if you have kids or not, or whatever your circle or sphere of influence might be. That is what a man is. And right now, when people say, oh, we're lacking men, they're correct, but not for the reason that you think. Not because we need more beards or more tattoos or more talking shit. We don't need more of that. We need more real examples. That's what being a man is all about. And that's what's going to get this fucker turned around for the better. And I just want to acknowledge that, bro. I think that's, to me, that was the most impactful thing you said all day.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I appreciate that tremendously. Yeah. And I truly believe that if there was a mindset shift in the world and everybody tried to attack life with this relentless pursuit of excellence, and the measure of success was how many people you could bring to the top of the mountain with you,
dude,
I think that would change the world. And my goal now is to see how many people I can impact, give hope, and start to win the conversations they're having with themselves to get out of their own damn way. And dude, I've just learned that the pursuit of excellence, it's lonely, and you don't want to be standing on top by yourself. You want to bring as many people with you as possible, and that's what I see happening here at First Form and the culture you guys create. It's not like, what can I get? It's how many people can I help?
Well, brother, that's what
byproduct it all happens.
That's why we love doing things with you. Real talk. Because you do the same thing in your life every day. Yeah. Like, you're out of all the people I've met, which is thousands of them, dude, not only are you like a relentless, aggressive, competitive guy who can pull out that, that fuck you that you got to have to win, right?
Dog in him.
Yeah, this dude has the biggest dog in him. Real talk. And then also be the guy who's encouraging people to come with and be humble. It's just a really incredible combination of personality, bro. And I know I'm speaking for all of us here. We all fucking love it.
That means a ton. Thank you.
Yeah, it's certainly not common. We wish it was more the norm.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to have you around.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So you've also got this other thing that you're working on. You got a book coming out.
Yeah,
Let's
man.
talk about the book.
Yeah, this has been an exciting project for us, only because, again, it's what we just talked about. It's trying to get the greatest amount of people to the mountaintop and get out of their own way and winning the conversations. And the reason the title of the book is going to be called Iron Hope, and I've got the worst gift ever, Andy. I have this gift to suffer. And I thought to myself, man, this is the worst gift ever. Like, why didn't I have this like incredible baseball talent like Sal, or why didn't I have this like business savviness like you do, or why
Good
couldn't
looks
I play?
like DJ.
Why did good looks like DJ? Like why? Like this?
It was good. Well placed.
Like why couldn't I be this musician or this artist? And I was like given this gift to be able to suffer. And over the 20 years that we've been doing this, thousands of stories have come into our team and through email and messaging that like, your ability to suffer has given us hope on our journey where we didn't ask for the suffering, whether it's addiction or illness or trauma or whatever it is. And that was just like incredibly humbling for me. And so that's why we named it Iron Hope. And the purpose of the book is to give people that hope, the regular everyday person, the hope to deal with and overcome the adversity and struggles that we're dealing with, because it's crippling today. And to me, I mean, it's been a lifelong journey to put this book together. The lessons that we've learned and just the things that I think we could impart on people to give them that hope, to start winning those conversations, to create that momentum. Because I truly, man, myself, my wife, our kids, it's a team effort, and we just want to see as many people win and have success. I believe I have found pure joy in my life. And it's through family, it's through community, it's through struggle, it's through doing hard things. It's about reaching finish lines and mountaintops together. And I just want to give that gift to people. So I'm really excited about the team we put together, the book that we've written. It's going to come out January of 2025, and it's going to be awesome.
That's
I'm
awesome.
excited about it. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So people see things like the amazing feats that you've done, and they hear you speak. You've been speaking, I mean, for 10 years, you've been a professional speaker. You're one of the best too. One of the best. If you guys ever need a good speaker to come speak to your organization in any capacity, I would highly recommend James. He's spoken to our organization. He's amazing.
Not good.
Yeah, he's great. Great.
Maybe a better speaker than a Ironman runner or athlete, right? You're pretty damn good at it, man.
I'm pretty damn good, yeah.
I mean, I heard when the first time I heard it, I was like, "Damn, James is good." Man.
Yeah.
Like,
It's crazy. It's been the greatest gift for me. I've now spoken to 56 countries around the world.
Yeah. Sure.
And just been unbelievable to speak from NFL teams to accountants in Sri Lanka. But what's amazing is that's what fills my bucket is I can move a room. And for me to watch a room move like that and every person in there have an experience, because I'm not talking to how to improve your bottom line at your company. I'm talking to the individual, and I'm talking to your mind and your heart. And we change the way somebody feels and thinks. It changes every aspect of their lives in terms of home and relationship and then business. So in fact, it does increase business's bottom dollar because we're talking to the way somebody thinks and feels.
Is that your pitch? Is God going to make you money?
I hope so. I hope it works.
hey, listen, I was
yeah, me too.
I need the tech guys to pull that clip out specifically.
Yeah, we got it.
My website.
We'll get it to you.
So, dude, listen. So people see you do all these amazing things, and they assume that you're a superhuman guy, and you have struggles, and you have things that you've been through. And let's talk about some of the things that you've had to overcome.
Yeah, I think it's so important to realize that, like you said, flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Cut me, I still bleed.
Yeah.
I put my pants on one leg at a time like everybody else.
Yeah.
In fact, I woke up today and I'm like, dude, I'm not good enough to be on Andy's podcast. Like just that.
Bro, you're one of the main reasons I have the podcast.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Without me meeting you, 75 hard wouldn't even be a thing.
It's so humbling when you say that.
It's real truth.
It blows my mind. But I'm like, I'm like everybody else. And that's the real struggle. That's the thing that people struggle with most is that imposter syndrome. And again, it's just straight up the conversations that we're having with ourselves. And after the 100 Ironmans in 100 days, I was broken mentally.
Yeah.
And it like just from concussions and PTSD. And it took 2 years of really hard work and resetting those neurological pathways because it's real. And I some days I woke up with incredible anxiety, incredible depression. They did these tests on me where they were testing my eye movements, and they were in the millions, and they were supposed to be in the thousands, and they questioned how I was functioning. And when they did my brain scans, they were like, we don't know how you get on stage and do what you're doing. And it was just at that point, sheer will to be able to do it, because I'm like, I have to keep going. I have to keep showing up. I'm never going to quit on myself. And through a lot of work and struggle and teamwork and love for my wife and family, we did a recent brain scan at the end of last year, and they said 100% clear, no signs of PTSD. No one would know you had a concussion.
So you literally fixed your brain.
I broke my brain and then I fixed it. And that's a message that I want to get people to know and understand. Like, even these guys that you look up to and all, like, we struggle.
Oh yeah.
And I've heard you talk about it all
listen,
the time.
you and I have talked about this exact issue.
100%.
Because I've had lots of actual physical trauma in my life. You know, I got stabbed in the head. My head was swollen for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I played football. I played all kinds of contact sports. I've fucking been under chronic stress 24 hours a day for the last 25 years. So yeah, we've been through some shit.
I mean, I went to the World Championships last year for the swim run race. It's called Otillo. It's in Sweden. And for the first time in my career, I didn't make the cutoff. And I left that race and I was so embarrassed. I was humiliated. And I was just like, and it's because I was literally broken.
Yeah.
And when you establish yourself in society as like the toughest dude, and you're incredibly mentally tough, and you're unbreakable, and then you miss a race cutoff and you're in last place, and that was a moment for me where I'm like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And
something's going on.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for the team that I had, the support that I had. Literally fixed my brain.
Yeah.
And I'm so fired up this year. Like,
dude, I could tell, bro.
We said at the beginning, like, I'm going to South Africa.
Yeah.
I've got a couple world championships on the schedule this year. Like, I'm almost 50. You haven't seen the best of me yet.
I believe that 1,000,000%.
And I'm so fired up. Like, just my perspective, like we've talked about today, like, it's so wide open, the possibility. I'm going to PR in most modalities that I do this year.
So when we talk about overcoming hardship and we look at society, you know, you and I have spoken a lot through, and by the way, I could tell you're different. I could feel it. I could feel it in your presence this time versus the last time I saw you in real life. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to fucking step up and have to do your talks and do your job and pretend like everything's cool when it ain't cool. I know exactly what that's like. I just went through a very difficult physical situation with my health as well, which I'll tell you about off the show. But it fixed a lot of what was going on with me. And it was physical. It was physical. I just say it here. So I had a bleeding ulcer in my stomach for the last 4 years. And then I had 2 bleeding polyps in my colon for the last 4 years. So I had a little blood in the toilet when I would go poop. And I thought it was from lifting, because I would always get like little hemorrhoid issues from lifting weights. Well, it turns out I've had this blood in my gut and in my intestines for the last 4 years, which is causing my intestines and my gut to flare up, which means I can't absorb any of my food. But what it also means is that because my blood it actually caused me to be anemic, which was causing massive anxiety. So I'm in fight or flight all the time because I'm bleeding and I can't see it, right? I can only see it in the toilet. I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. I know that sounds crazy to you guys, but like that stuff doesn't phase me out. Like, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I got a fucking broken finger. I don't give a shit. You get it. So, but dude, I went and got it fixed, and within 3 days, my brain was fucking right. Like, it was crazy. All it was I just didn't have much oxygen, and that signal was going to my brain. It fixed a lot of stuff, which is why I'm excited about this year for me physically too, because I can now absorb food. But the point is, you know, we go through these times where we know we're not right, and it's not because we can't push through or we're weak or we're not tough enough. Like, bro, you're running across fucking Greece, bro. You're pretty tough. You know what I'm saying? At some point, we do have to stop and say, hey, there is a real problem here. But, you know, what would you say because like right now in society, I struggle to talk about these things because I feel like our culture is so geared towards manufacturing problems that aren't real versus addressing problems that are. Meaning, I feel like a lot of people have built their identity in being a victim and saying, I got all this stuff wrong with me, I can't do this, and for attention and likes and shares on the internet. And it's almost hard to like differentiate real situations from non-real situations now. And I think that keeps a lot of people from addressing situations that could be real, right? Like, I don't feel good. I'm not feeling right. I'm fucked up, but I don't want to be a pussy because I don't want to be like one of these guys on the internet that's just crying about all this shit all the time. So like, what do you think? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, we just have to, everybody has to have their own unique experiences, and then you've just got to know and understand your body and how it's reacting, and be honest with yourself. Like, okay, is this an injury or is this just an ache or a pain?
Yeah.
And is this a moment where I push through and I grow, or do I need that recovery, right? Because as guys, we're like push, go, grind all the time, right?
Yeah.
But we do need to respect that, like, recovery and downtime. Like, people don't understand because they see my really intense moments. But at my home, I got a hyperbaric chamber at my house. I've got a red light therapy bed. I've got a PT and massage that comes in every single week. Like, LeBron James spends $1 million a year on his physical health so that he can perform. And so really, those individuals that are just sitting at home, like, questioning, should I, shouldn't I, they're not getting the knowledge and experience they need to in order to make those decisions, right?
Yeah.
And it's again, humility. Like, you're saying, okay, I can either grind this out, but what type of long-term damage are you doing by not checking that out?
Yeah.
And like, dude, I crashed, like, on day 59 of the 100, I crashed and I broke my back.
Yeah.
And I cracked my L5 vertebrae and had to do 41 Ironmans with a broken back. And so a lot of people will be like, whoa, that's like dangerous to, like, put your body in that position. But I really know my body because I've had a lot of experience in doing this stuff. My wife knows me intimate, like, all these things. Like, we know by showing up and having experiences, like, where our limits are. Am I injured, or is it smart to push through, and all these things. And so, frankly, for those people that are just, like, not engaging and experiencing in life, like, that's what you have to do to be able to get to know oneself.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people too that, like, know you, can understand you. Because, like, my wife was the first one to say, hey, something's wrong.
Yeah.
With your brain.
Yeah.
I know you. We've been married 23 years. Like, we need to address this. And then for me as a man to be humble enough to say, okay, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know, and so again, it's just like knowing yourself and then surrounding yourself with unbelievable people that also recognize that and will put their hand out and help you.
I think also to add, dude, I think, you have to push yourself to a certain point to actually create awareness of what is wrong. A lot of people, I've stuck to my diet 5 days. I deserve 3 days off my diet because I got to recover. Bro, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about the other end of the spectrum. We're talking about pushing yourself to the point of literal destruction and then having to step back and say, all right, this isn't good. What do I got to do now? How hard was that for you to address mentally?
Yes, super hard to get to that point where, because
like, bro, you've done all this shit, right?
Yeah.
In your brain, you're like, fuck, I can do anything.
Well, dude, I'm telling you,
You've been able to ignore so many red flags that have popped up before.
Well, the brain is so powerful. Like, somebody asked me on day 98 how many I could do, and I was like, 200.
Yeah.
Like, that's where my mind was, and I was in that state of grind and push, and I was just in that really protective state. And then, like, day 102 and 3, I was like broken. And so, again, recognize, like, how powerful the mind is. But what we need to do also too is, like, we need to, we've talked about in the past, like, showing up and doing hard things intentionally. That was kind of the line I said that created the 100. And I went and did this race, this jungle race in Fiji, backcountry. It was a Mark Burnett production. Bear Grylls was the host. 67 countries from around the world, teams of 4. And it was actually called the world's toughest race.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was on Amazon Prime. And they kept trying to convince me, and they wanted me to say on camera, this was the hardest thing that I've ever done. And we came into every camp and everything. We were smiling, we were laughing. Like, the other teams were so miserable and suffering, and they just couldn't understand why we were so happy coming into every camp. And they just badly wanted us to say it was the hardest thing we've ever done. And we basically laughed the whole time because we were like, no, we've done 50 days of impossible. This is 8 days. Like, come on. And that's the point.
It's not even believable.
Is he right? And so that's the point here is you have to show up and do hard things to move that bar through experience to know what's good, what's wrong, and what's easy and what's hurting you and what's not. But you have to change where that benchmark or line is. So do things really hard all the time so that when general society says this is hard, you're like, no, this is easy. And I know because I've had experiences and I can navigate it differently. And that's for you. Like you got to the point where you're pushing yourself and you're like, okay, this is serious.
Yeah.
And it takes a humble person to know, okay,
when I looked in the blood
pushing.
and there was a gallon of blood, or I looked in the toilet and there was a gallon of blood in there and it was black and red blood and I'm fucking puking, I'm like,
this is no longer mental.
Yeah.
This is no longer mental
right.
toughness.
Yeah.
For sure. And it takes a ton of maturity and humility to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And to go, okay.
Fuck, it scared the shit out of me, dude. I'm like, I'm going to die tomorrow. I better go right now.
Yeah,
They got me.
100%.
That's what it takes me, dude. It takes me that far to like take action like that.
Yeah. And we hope that most people don't go that far, but
Well, I do think people err on the other side of it. I think we live in a culture now where people think they're doing something when they're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
You know? And so I just want to clarify, when you hear James talk about these things and we talk about, you know, when to back off and when to push, bro, if you look in the mirror and you're fucking 100 pounds overweight and your bank account is empty and you're living in the basement of your mom's house,
time to push.
bro, this is push time. This ain't fucking, you need a rest.
Yeah.
You've been resting your whole life. All right. So I just want to clarify that statement of
and the reality too is when somebody starts on a journey where they're in that point where they're 300 pounds and broken everything's going to hurt and be uncomfortable when you start back doing something because your body's so used to being in that comfortable, sheltered state. But then as soon as they start, they feel that discomfort and they're like, whoa,
I need
I'm
rest.
hurting myself.
Yeah.
I got to back off here a little
How do
bit.
you push through those ones?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the times when you push through. And
Yeah.
so, again, it's through experience to know when to push and when not. But people like, this happens all the time with new runners. They run, they feel knee pain, and they're like, I can't run, I have bad knees. And I'm like, no, your knees are hurting because your quads are tight and they're pulling up and it's sucking the kneecap in because you just started a new activity that's foreign to you. And the reason you have bad knees is because you don't run. And so there's you got to start to like understand the difference of when to show up, when to push, whatnot. And it's a valuable lesson that everybody needs to learn. But again, just like success and everything, you have to show up in life, have these experiences in order to know where that push and not push line is. And it's the only way to do anything in life is it's through experiences.
Brother, I have, as always, greatly enjoyed our conversation. I know you've got a plane that you're getting ready to catch.
Yeah.
So if you could leave everybody with one piece of advice or a couple pieces of advice or just some words of encouragement with everything going on in the world and all the disruption and all the frustration and, you know, it's difficult times for a lot of people, you know, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say number one, show up every single day with honesty and integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world's lacking that right now, and I truly believe that it's a gift to first show up with that honesty and integrity, but then not care or internalize what other people think about you and the way you're operating. And if you just continue to show up and chip away at the task, at the dream, at the whatever it is, you'll win. Because the only way to guarantee that you'll fail is to stop showing up. And I'll just share just real quick that race in Fiji, the Fijian team was given a spot just because they were the host country. No training, terrible coaching, terrible equipment. Mark Burnett walked up to him, no chance you guys finish. They beat every single team that quit. And I was standing on Survivor Island when the Fijian team crossed the finish line with huge smiles on their faces. Now, they were dead last, but they beat every single team that quit because they understood movement and time. And if I just keep moving, time's going to keep ticking, and eventually I'll get there. And they were gritty out of necessity because they grew up in that life, and they developed that skill set. And so, really, my message is: meet yourself where you're at. Give yourself some grace. Everybody's heart is different. Just start, learn as you go, be gracious in your mistakes, and just keep chipping away. And eventually, you'll get there, surrounded by amazing people.
Bro, I love it, man. Let's hit the dates on when your documentary and your book come out one more time for everybody.
Yeah. Documentary release March 27th of 2024, and then super pumped for the release of our new book, Iron Hope, January 2025.
And where can people follow you at? Where are you most active on socials?
Yeah, most active on Instagram, Iron Cowboy James.
All right. Guys, listen. If you're not following James and you're not part of his ecosystem, you need to be, okay? This man's changing the world. He's setting an example for what it means to be tough, to be mentally tough, to be physically tough, and also, and most importantly, be an amazing human being, bro. And I am very, very, very grateful for our friendship. I'm very grateful for you and everything that you're doing. And knowing you and being your friend is a great honor to me and a great honor to everybody here. That's real shit.
I appreciate that, man.
So,
I feel the same way.
I'm very, very, very thankful that even though it's very rare that people like you exist, because, when things get hard, like you said, I'm in your circle in certain ways. You're in my circle. And when things get hard, I think of you. I think of things that you have been through. I think of things that you have went through. And, 75 Hard wouldn't exist without your influence and our friendship. And it's changed millions of lives. And so, dude, I just want to say thank you genuinely from my heart for being who the fuck you are, man.
I thank you tremendously. And I just want to share something really quick. I was in the gym working out this morning, and your dad came up to me. And he said, man, I remember the first time you spoke here at headquarters. And he goes, I woke up the next day and I went and ran. I wanted to run 3 miles. And he goes, I ran 10 miles. And for 3 years straight, I ran almost every single day. And he goes, when I wanted to quit, he goes, I always had a run partner. And he looks over and down to his left and he goes, it was you and Chad Wright. And every time I wanted to quit, both of you were right there yelling at me, telling me to take that next step. And it's those stories, those moments of why guys like you, guys like me choose to, with relentless pursuit, show up every single day. Because, like, dude, what an honor to have that impact on your dad and to have him share that story with me.
He talks. People don't understand. My dad's almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
So when he's saying he's out running 6 miles a day and running 10 miles, that's a huge deal. This is only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's 79 years old. So, I mean, he was 77 years old doing this.
It was so cool for me to hear that. So
yeah.
I appreciate your comments. It's an honor to be on the show. So
yeah. All right, guys. Don't be a hoe.
For the show.